everyone, and welcome to another Stampin' Up tutorial. So today I'm going to show you how to make your very own washi tape using Stampin' Up products. You've probably also watched a couple other videos on how to create your own washi tape. There's a couple problems with those. The first thing is that it's using aggressive adhesive. It's not easily removable. This means that if you try to move it from place to place on your projects, chances are you're going to end up ripping your project. So a lot of those are using masking tape or score tape as an adhesive. Another issue is that the products are not acid-free. So masking tape for sure is not acid-free. So you need to take care of your projects by using the right adhesive. The first thing that you're going to need is an acid-free low-tack adhesive. Typically this is called drafting tape, artist tape, or tissue tape. You can get these at any store that sells painting supplies or bookbinding supplies, and as an added bonus, they usually have a coupon that you can use so you can save additional money on your purchase. A word of warning is you want to make sure that it says archival, pH neutral, or acid free. So this one right here, it says archival and pH neutral, so we know that this one is safe to use. Now I bought this 3M low tack artist tape. I did call 3M and it's not guaranteed acid free. So you want to make sure that you do your homework, though I remember seeing on the shelf that there was plenty of larger rolls of artist tape that did in fact say acid-free right on the label. Another thing to watch out for is a lot of times that the tape might not be porous, so you might have a little bit of trial and error. I did buy this artist tape right here, and it resisted the ink when I was trying to color it, so this one wasn't going to work for me in this case. Another item to note is the properties of the tape itself. So these artist tape and drafting tape typically have a very slight transparency, so it's pretty much opaque, whereas this tissue paper, as you can see here, is very transparent. So both of these are going to give you two different looks, so really it's up to you based on the product that you're working on which one to use. So because this paper tape right here, this artist tape, is not acid free, I'm going to go ahead and spray it with an archival mist, and that will make it pH neutral and safe to use on my project. And the reason why this works is because this spray neutralizes acid in paper, and this is in fact paper tape, so this will suit our needs. So let's get started making our washi tape. So for our first project, what we're going to need is a reservoir. We're also going to need your choice of re-inker, and for this project I'm going to use Wild Wasabi ink. We're going to need an aqua painter. So this is going to be used to, one, dilute the ink in the reservoir, but as well as being used to apply the ink to our washi tape. The next thing that you're going to need is a stamp set. So this is the pattern that I want to use on my washi tape. And I want that pattern to be Night of Navy, so we're going to use the Night of Navy classic ink pad. I'm also going to be using the Stamp-A-Majig, and the reason why I use this is because I'm anal about the placement of my stamped images. And then optionally you can use a heat gun, so if you're anything like me and don't like to sit and wait for the ink to dry, go ahead and use a heat gun to speed up that process. So the first thing that you're going to do is take your re-inker and add a couple drops to your reservoir. Then you're going to take your aqua painter and give it a little bit of a squeeze just to dilute that ink a little bit. Now I'm going to push this up here a little bit, but I'm just going to be dipping my aqua painter directly into that reservoir, and then you apply it directly to your project. And you don't have to worry if it's perfect or not. It just gives it character. I'm going to move over here and do the tissue tape as well. And I apologize if that's a little hard to see. It is a very transparent tape. So this is just giving it a tinge of the wild wasabi color. You can use more drops of ink if you want a darker color, but I think I'm just going to like this tint of it just well. So now I'm going to grab my heat gun. Be careful not to actually burn your project. You want to keep it a good distance away. That's fully dry. Just going to wipe my craft mat a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is grab my stamp. I'm going to set the cover aside there. I'm going to use my Stamp-A-Majig so I can get the right placement. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick that in the corner. I always like to do it where the Stampin' Up! Copyright symbol's on the bottom. This way I always know which way I've inserted it into my Stamp-A-Majig. And then this ink doesn't have to be fully covered. As you see, it's not completely inked up, but it'll give me the right idea when I use it as my template. So there you could see where the stamped images are going to be stamped. The next thing you're going to do is actually stamp it directly onto your project. So you can see here that I could get a pretty cool design using the Stamp-A-Majig at this angle. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and stick my guide there. Then take my stamp and ink it up really well. I like to sometimes rub it on these larger stamps and then kind of pounce on it so it doesn't look all streaked. So again, the Stampin' Up! Copyright facing towards the bottom of the Stamp-A-Majig. Just going to hold my Stamp-A-Majig there and push down. I'm going to give it a little bit of extra pressure because that middle of that stamp doesn't like to stamp for me for some reason. So I can lift it. You can see now that I have a design on my washi tape. So I'm going to repeat this again. So again, the beauty of having the Stamp-A-Majig is you can line things up pretty perfectly. So I think I've got the same angle and the same distance there. So again, I'm going to place my Stamp-A-Majig guide. And again, I'm going to re-ink my stamp. Copyright of Stampin' Up! Facing the bottom of my guide. And I'm going to give it a little firm pressure here again. And there you have it. So I can actually remove this tape now. And again, because it's low tack, I can pick it up and move it. But there you go, that's your artist tape rendering of washi tape. Okay, so I'm going to stick my tape that we've already made right back here so we can look at its beauty. And I'm going to repeat the process for the tissue paper version. And there you have it. Our tissue paper version is done as well. So let me go ahead, and this one's a thinner tape. So it's a, don't get me wrong, it's a strong tape, but it's a little bit of a little more difficult to pull off of surfaces. Oop. Alright. And there's our tissue tape version. Okay, to demonstrate a couple, like the look of the different textures, I'm just going to snip off a little bit of each and show how it looks on some Whisper white cardstock. So as you can see here, that the artist tape is very opaque. If I were to overlap it, you would not see through it. For the tissue tape, on the other hand, you snip a little bit of a piece off here. You can see that it's very transparent. And if I take another piece and cross it over, you can actually see the pattern right through it. So that's the two different results that you're going to get based off of the thickness of the material that you're using. So what use would all the washi tape be if we didn't have a project to show it off? So we're going to put together a quick scrapbook page. So the first thing you're going to need is a picture to scrapbook. So this is my three boys with Phineas and Ferb, a dream come true. You're also going to need an 8x8 sheet of Night of Navy cardstock. You're going to need a 7.5 by 7.5 inch sheet of MDS More Mustard Villa. And what this means is I went into my digital studio and I printed out this designer series paper. You're also going to need a 4 by 6.5 sheet of MDS Brocade Blue Villa. And again, I went into my digital studio and printed off this pattern paper from the same paper family as the More Mustard. Then you're going to need a 3.5 by 4 inch MDS Happy B-Day paper 3. And this is in the designer kit section of my digital studio. You're also going to need 2 strips of 1 by 4 inch Riding Hood Red. And you're going to need a scrap of Whisper white cardstock. I'm going to be using Night of Navy ink to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to be punching it out with the decorative label punch. I'm going to be sponging it with our Stampin' Sponge. I'm going to use Snail and Stampin' Dimensionals. And the stamp set that we're going to use is Loving Thoughts. It's in the Occasions Mini. And I'm going to use the memory stamp right here for the sentiment of this scrapbook page. Alright, so let's start assembling our scrapbook page. So I'm going to use this Night of Navy as our scrapbook page base. And I'm going to go ahead and use Snail to adhere this More Mustard Villa Designer Series paper. Going to center that as best as I can, and I apologize, I'm not very straight very often. So go ahead and push that down. Now I'm going to take the Brocade Blue Villa paper and adhere that down. Going to go ahead and tilt that on a little bit of an angle. And somewhat center it. Next thing I'm going to do is what I call fomatting. So I'm going to fomat this Happy B-Day paper using the strips of Riding Hood Red. And to do that, basically you just cut the strips as we already did and just adhere it to the back of the pattern paper. And you can leave as much or as little matte as you want, but the thing is you're saving cardstock because I only wanted the top and bottom to be matted. And you just kind of eyeball to get the mats to be similar in size. I think that looks pretty close. Now I'm going to adhere this piece to bump up to the side of this more mustard designer series paper and kind of centering it. So let me go ahead and add snail to this. Well, I guess not quite centering it, but you get the point. The next thing I'm going to do is adhere my picture. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. So even though we are going to be using washi tape to hold this picture, you want to adhere it as well because the washi tape again is not an aggressive adhesive. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of center that and offset it on that brocade blue Villa Designer Series paper. So here's what we have so far. I'm going to set this aside and we're going to stamp our sentiment. So I'm going to bring in my Whisper White scrap. Oops. I'm going to use that memory stamp. So I'm going to ink it up. And stamp it on my scrap of Whisper White. And I'm going to take my decorative label punch and center it as best as I can inside that window. And punch. Now what I'm going to do is take this Stampin' sponge and a Night of Navy ink, and I'm going to pick up my decorative label and just kind of give it a little bit of distressing around the edges with the ink. I'm going to be using Stampin' Dimensionals to adhere this to the project, so I'm just going to flip it over and grab the Stampin' Dimensionals. Be quite generous because I always hate when something lands on top of it and kind of flattens the middle. I put 5 on there. Bring my project back in. And I'm going to place this centered in that Designer Series paper from the top to the bottom. Go. Now let's add our washi tape. So here's some of the washi tape I made a little earlier. I like to make it look a little distressed, so I'm going to actually tear kind of on an angle, give it a little distressed look to it. Now what I want to do is have a long strip at the top and then maybe 2 small ones on the corners on the bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere this one down. Actually, I think I changed my mind. Let me go ahead and take these corners off again. So again, just carefully peeling it up. I think I want another long strip on this one corner only. So I'm just going to go ahead and distress rip on the one side, distress rip on the other side. I'm going to do that same thing, but just using a larger piece and adhering it down. Yeah, I think I like that look a lot better. Anyway, so there you have it. That's how you make washi tape using your Stampin' Up! Supplies. Remember to visit my website, stampingbandit.stampinup.net, to order all these cool Stampin' Up! Projects. And also, it's celebration time right now, so every $50 you spend, you get free Sale-A-Bration items. Talk to you later. See you next time. Bye.